This podcast is brought to you by Voice and Vision, bringing help, hope, and healing to individuals, families, and communities affected by mental illness, addictions, and disabilities in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Welcome to Untold Valor, a podcast with a unique focus on veterans, featuring stories of courage, recovery, perseverance, and strength. Listen to hear veterans share their perspectives on what it's like to battle mental health challenges, combat addictions, and overcome other adversities unique to those who have served.
Welcome in once again to another edition of Untold Valor, Veterans Recovery in Action. Very excited for today's episode as we continue on with our podcast, hopefully providing helpful, useful nuggets of information and stories to other veterans out there and listening to experiences from other people who have walked the walk and talked the talk. And this week, we are very excited to have on with us a very distinguished guest, Dr. Cathy Bennett-Santos, Ph.D. She's going to be joining us talking about her history. It's a great history with certainly a worthwhile story here, so we're going to dive in. Dr. Santos, welcome in. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it is my honor to be here to share on this very important topic. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And we've had a lot of great guests on here, so certainly looking forward to adding you to the roster. And we're going to talk today a little bit about your book, My Desert Storm, but we're also going to talk about you a little bit. And so kind of the topic here is kind of bridging the gap on the evolution of women veterans advocacy, something that you're very passionate about, and you have an amazing story with that as well. So we'll dive right in. Start wherever you'd like. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, let me just first acknowledge all of the other great advocates out there that are on the same fight for justice as I am with regard to women veterans, particularly those who are sexually assaulted. That is part of my story, which precipitated me into the journey that I have taken for the past 30 years.
Wow.
So just a little bit on the evolution, began with me while I was serving on active duty. I served as a medic from 1989 to 1992 on active duty, where I had several episodes of improprieties with my superiors. And I became somewhat of a activist from that point forward. I fought my case while I served on active duty with a Pentagon investigation. There's a Pentagon 15-6 investigation that gets to a pretty high level on criminal activities or some type of special investigations where the Pentagon may get involved.
Okay.
And I fought that while I served, and it was quite a challenge. But somehow I was given somewhat, I guess I'm going to say, a spiritual charge to withhold, to take on this huge platform.
Yeah, I was going to say a monumental task. Yeah, for sure.
I had no idea exactly what I was embarking upon. But the story is layered, which make it evolutionary, because today we have several 100,000 who have come forward with the same issue, which was not quite the case back then.
Wow.
So my story began actually when I was able to fight and win my case with the founded Pentagon investigation. And I was eventually what they call ETS, or ended my term in service, where I would encounter the NAACP here in Philadelphia, where I met another young woman who was advocating on sexual assault and military justice. And I was able to go to Congress in 1993. That resulted in two important mandates through Congress, that there be military sexual trauma training in all the hospitals, and women sex gender specific treatment facilities in all the hospitals in the country. And it's not that long ago, actually, but I can just recall that when I would go into the Philadelphia VA, when I was transitioning, that there was just a curtain that separate the men's treatment from the women. We didn't have our own as we do today. So I'm just honored to be a part of that contribution, where we have needed to have certainly women to be respected in that manner. So this is where we are today. My journey has evolved along with some of the advocacy. I would like to take credit for the VA that has embraced my work and the stories of many, many other women who have come forward today. We meet with other challenges, but today is a different day, I can say. And that's part of what the book will entail. Some of the more challenging days to some of the present times where we are more united across the country, supporting one another. And it's more open to the conversation with the VA and how they respect the experience of those who have encountered these very, I'm going to say, life-changing experiences while they were serving in their patriotic roles on the other side of the oath of service. And I make emphasis on the other side of the oath, because on the other side of the oath, there's a different culture, there's a different type of life, that one cannot imagine, which I kind of identify and refer to as the foxhole
I was
experience.
going to say, Dr. Santos, could you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? What do you mean by the other side of the oath? Is
On
that
the
like,
other side of the oath, yes, sir.
yeah,
So there is required for all who would enlist or commissioned into the military that they make an oath to the service. And the oath to the service, besides understanding that that role is very synonymous with your patriotic oath to serve our country
okay,
against foreign and domestic enemies. And you somewhat kind of relinquish all of your civil responsibilities to the military. You become that soldier or that other military personnel
gotcha.
that your commitment now is to serve the country. And in that role, there's a very unique frame of mind and mindset from the onset that when you take the oath of service, that you are expected to be deployable or prepared to defend our country. And so, in anything that would impede that or inhibit that, is something I think is distracting, which we experience a lot, somewhat of today, where we are distracted oftentimes with the military as being something other than what it is. The primary goal is to defend our country against foreign and domestic enemies. And I do believe that for what we experience with military sexual trauma, it's taken on a different role, but it's taken very, very serious today in that it does distract for what the primary role of our military is. So on the other side of that oath is where that wall is created.
Gotcha.
In my interpretation, yes.
Yeah.
And so on the other side of the oath, once you make the oath, you kind of separate it from I'm going to say, the most recognizable civilian life, where your command is created as your family. It's just a very different culture and experience for those who are committed to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, you've obviously had quite the journey. You're the founder of the first nationally recognized nonprofit for women, right? So as well, who are victim of military rapes. And so is that kind of all that stuff, is that part of your story, the spiritualist side and the self-help side in the My Desert Storm book? Is that kind of how you brought that all together there?
You said it exactly the way I would frame it myself.
Okay.
What I realized my experience, that I was not the only one, but my transition from military service, which I do refer to in a different part of my work now in research, I refer to it as post-transition military, where it became incumbent upon me to establish a platform for my own transitional challenges. In so doing, I was able to get the support through where I established the very first platform for women veterans who were sexually assaulted in the country at the Mount Everett Church of God in Christ. We're celebrating 20 years this year.
Wow!
So we are hoping.
Congratulations!
Yes, sir. And I'm just so delighted to see the support in this, that we've had the VA and our partners. We have the city of Philadelphia. So many legislators who have come to support the women who are sexually assaulted. We're just in another place right now. I'm just relieved to see that the compassion and empathy, whether you understand the military or you don't, just the part of the suffering that many women endure, to help them navigate, through the various resources they need to get a holistic life after that service.
Yeah, because a lot of times the struggle even is just talking, right? I mean, obviously coming forward, right, is usually the first and the biggest hurdle often. Is that accurate or no?
I think many women do struggle. The environment of that culture on the other side of the oath makes it a little bit challenging. Military sexual trauma can be a little bit more challenging than what I understand that happens in civilians. But I do know some uniformed institutions do have similar, I'm going to say, activity where you can make some parallels.
Gotcha.
But the military is very unique in my experience, that the stories as they are told, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, even I've heard, that the challenge can be greater. Or for me, I took a different route, and I would like to see that my work will present these alternatives to treatment and to solving these problems. And I think that's what I believe is part of my contribution. And realistically, because my journey, I began to seek alternative help because there was none through the traditional platforms of the VA at the time. And we now have multiple ways by which we can transition. We have anonymous platforms. We have open platforms. We have very trusted ways by which we can communicate that today. So that's very important for those who can navigate beyond that. But it is a very challenging. I've had many women just to hear the word sexual assault and were triggered to talk about things, and it became very painful in very open space. So I'm just delighted that we have alternative, and these options have been promoted through the VA, as well as many of our communities now that offer these alternative treatments.
More conversation, more acceptance, more openness, right? More transparency is always a good thing.
Yes, the alienation that I endured, you feel that nobody can relate to you because these conversations are very, I'm going to say, quieted.
Right,
People were back in, so we wasn't very, I don't think we were as courageous back then. It was just an experience. We lived with it and we died with it for the most part. Now we have these alternatives to help us to have a better quality of life by talking about it.
Right.
And to have what we established very early on in the advocacy was peer-to-peer. So veterans, I think, are their best support systems when we encounter others who have that experience. I find that to be one of the most, the easiest and the most comforting way.
That's exactly how this podcast came to be. Is Reverend Ben, who's not with us today, but other folks that have been on here, right? They often talk about it's veterans open up a little more to somebody again who's walked the walk or talked the talk, right? And I, you talked quite a bit about spirituality. Reverend Ben often talked about his own personal story. Also was a medic as well, corpsman in the Navy, about how through spirituality he also helped turn himself around or move himself forward through his personal traumas, right? So I think a lot of people do find that.
I am so pleased to meet Reverend Ben, as well as through the affiliate that we have now become partnered with through the Robert Howie Veteran Housing.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that the whole network is very compassionate in how they have embraced the veterans. I actually listened to your podcast with the 3 veterans. I think it was recent, and I found their stories to be very uniquely different, but just as important. And it was very well moderated as well.
Thank you.
I was very, very proud to hear that the platform was there, and just to hear how the stories were articulated in a way that they were all relatable to me, even though they were from different branches, different eras. But I could relate to each story, and I was appreciative of that moderation too, because it allowed them to really get a lot of their information out. They had just really depth in how they articulated their experience, and I was just really pleased to hear.
Well, thank you so much for checking that out and supporting as well. And, that's what it's all about, right? It's helping, I've got a daughter in the Navy, right? So I can relate, to all these different stories and various different things. And as a parent, like your thoughts change from how you view things to how you hope your kids can see things or go through things or not go through things, right? So we certainly want to, moving forward in education and opportunity is always, usually a good thing anyway. So I always try to ask people, Dr. Santos, as we're kind of winding down, what's a message, what's a takeaway from someone who's lived through a traumatic experience, came out the other side, obviously built a network and working to help others? What's something you would share to people who maybe, no matter what walk of life they're in, whether it's male or female or whatever, but just they're struggling with how to get help or what to do next? They feel a little lost. What would you kind of share from your experience?
Well, because the military is multi-pronged with regards to the branches, with regards to the service enlistment commission. Mm-hmm. Somewhat depends on the individual. So I ask the veteran to identify with who they are.
Okay.
Never forget the dreams from before the service, the ambitions. Hold on to that. I talk today a lot about professional leadership and development. A lot of that training, when it's channeled in a different way, it helps to hold on to some of the things that you experience. Every individual is so different that it's just really no blanketed way to address what that message would be. It's a very, very personal and individual experience when you're talking about navigating beyond the military. Many of us can just come right out and just hit the ground running, get a job and move on with their life. And many of them sometimes often have a very different experience. So it's very unique to the experience of the person. So I really would like to not kind of refrain from making a very open, blanketed experience, because they're very, very unique. I would like to say this about the Navy. Because the branches are so uniquely different and structured, I was an Army veteran. I was enlisted to the Army. It was my goal to go to law school. I've actually since started law school, but the Navy was the most supportive while I served. The Army had other goals for me, but I was transitioned while I served to the Navy for some support. And the Navy actually embraced me to the point where my experience became very uniquely different. That's why I'm just making that analogy there. So the Navy, because I had that transition while I served, which is not the norm, it's just something that I would share, that but we have to be very, very conscious of what the military and what the United States Department of Defense and what that goal and objective is. And we have to recognize our role in it, how important it is to know that we are all equally, I believe, once we make that oath of service, respect it. I think that's the most important thing, that we do not have to accept any other treatment towards us.
Gotcha.
That we should also understand that we have every right to get support from the VA, from our government. They have opened those options up. And if that is not happening, we have all types of resources now, whether it's through the White House or whether it's through the DOD, or certainly our local VAs. And the Philadelphia does have its Veterans Affairs Office, where I'm sure they're now overloaded with a lot of veterans that are coming through there, and there are a lot of open forums. So connect with some type of a veteran service organization, whether it could be the DAD, Department of Veterans Affairs, any type of veteran service organization that coalesces around our issues. I think that is important to note for another veteran. Do not try to navigate this alone. Find someone.
Well said. Yeah.
And I think that's very important, that we not alienate or isolate or withdraw ourselves from our families, because that does delay, I think, the healing process. So I think that we should seek healing as an alternative. Oftentimes we look for other ways to, I guess, to
kind of deal with the pain. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, and we do find that a lot too. One of the three major issues in my research is substance abuse disorder, suicidal ideation, and mental health. So we want to make sure that we are showing the type of alternative treatment methodologies where the veteran can see what fits well for them, and that those options are available to them.
Yeah,
and this
for
is
sure.
Type of the navigation that I'm hoping that will become more available with platforms like this, where we are talking about these types of different things, where veterans don't oftentimes get easy access. But as we continue to grow the conversations, grow the mediums by which we articulate them, then we can become more connected, if you will. And then we'll be more helpful to one another.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, that's great advice, right? You've got to take some action. You've got to look for that connectivity somewhere. And so thank you so much for your time. Again, Dr. Cathy Bennett-Santos, PhD, here has been with us on this episode of the podcast of Untold Valor. She's got her book, My Desert Storm. We're going to have links, as always, in the show. We have links in the descriptions there on how to get help with Voice and Vision and Ink and other places. And we'll have links for Dr. Cathy Bennett-Santos' book as well. So if you would like to check that information out, please, again, click the links below, but take some action for yourself, especially if you're struggling and you need some help. Reach out to someone, form a connection, start a conversation, and the team is always here to help. Dr. Santos, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, sir.
Absolutely, you as well. And we will see you next time here on Untold Valor, Veterans Recovery in Action. Click that subscribe button as well so you can catch new episodes when they come out, and share it with others who might benefit from the message, and keep growing and providing those resources to all our veterans out there who may need them. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Untold Valor by Voice and Vision. We hope you found the information and resources discussed today helpful. As always, thank you for listening and for your support. Remember to stay connected with us through our various social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to visit the website, voiceandvisioninc.org. That's voiceandvisioninc.org, where you can sign up for our blog and find free resources and information on upcoming events, webinars, workshops, and get support. You can also access our free help and hope guide for individuals and families struggling with substance use and addiction. If someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help, because you and your life matter. Remember, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available to you at any time by dialing 988. We are all ambassadors of hope and recovery, and if you want to share your story, please contact us. Compeer Corps is also looking for veteran mentor volunteers and veteran participants. To find out more information about Compeer Corps, please call 610-541-0790. That's 610-541-0790. You can find all the links and contact information for the resources mentioned on today's episode by checking the description and the show notes section of your app. Thank you again for tuning in and for your support. Until next time, this has been Untold Valor.